about his project called Boycott, inspired by the real-life events of the 1902 kosher meat boycott. The women of New York City's Lower East Side protested and rallied when the cattle barons raised the price of kosher meat from 12 cents to 18 cents a pound. Boycott is an exciting, family-oriented show driven by 2 female co-leads and a large female ensemble cast. As you might imagine, the havoc they created was reported in all of the day's newspapers. Can you imagine religious Jewish women breaking butcher shop windows, setting stores on fire, and even getting arrested? These protests went on for 3 weeks. I had never heard of these events, and as a lover of all things Jewish and Yiddish, I was intrigued. When he told me that this was a hip-hop musical, I was in. I had no idea how far the project could go, and I'm very proud to have participated in 4 of the 6 tracks, playing various roles. Now, the TV series pilot script has won 4 highly acclaimed Hollywood writing contests, and he has written and produced 6 exciting songs that tell this remarkable historical story in an exciting and contemporary way for a future Broadway musical. I think Boycott is entertaining and unique. It tells an important historical story, and that's why I asked Jeff Mustard to be part of our virtual YI Love Yiddish Fest and our Liberation Commemoration events. We seek to reinforce the often cited quote that sacrifice without remembrance is meaningless. And so now, I am very proud to introduce my friend and colleague, Mr. Jeff Mustard.
Hello, and thanks, Avi, for that generous and gracious introduction. You, indeed, are a mensch, my friend. And also, thank you for inviting me to participate in this, the first International Yiddish Festival. It's a great honor, and it's very much appreciated. You covered a lot of territory and set up the show and my event really well, so thanks for that. I won't have to do that much heavy lifting now, and being Jewish naturally, I have sciatica. So, once again, my chiropractor and I thank you. I'll share a few interesting insights about the show, and then I'll say, let's go to the tape. I discovered the 1902 kosher beef boycott story in 2016 after seeing a framed news article about it on a restaurant wall. Well, I was intrigued. I did nothing with it for about a year. I was writing another television show called Exile, which I describe as a Cuban Count of Monte Cristo, but that's literally a whole nother story. So in 2017, I decided to take a closer look at the kosher beef boycott event. As it turns out, it was even more fascinating than I initially anticipated. Originally, I envisioned it as a feature film, but then after a year of research and then having started writing it, my feelings about it changed. When I hit the 200-page mark, I decided on a few things. First, there was simply way too much story. There was too much to fit into 90 minutes or 2 hours of a screenplay, which generally runs anywhere from 90 to 120 pages. So I shifted gears and decided to use all of this material and repurpose it as a limited TV series. At 200 pages, I had written enough material for 3 or 4 episodes of a TV show. Plus, with all my additional notes, the show is wholly framed out for an entire series and puts me at around 6 one-hour episodes, an ideal length for a limited series television show. So, there are several elements of the story's actual events set against this extraordinary period at the turn of the 20th century that really got my attention. The boycott story, as I've written it, leans heavily on real-life incidents. Still, at the same time, it is also significantly fictionalized. While the show's major through line and primary characters revolve around Fanny and Sarah, the women who initiated the boycott and their lives as mothers and homemakers, and now as rebels and troublemakers who don't seem to know their place in a world of societal and religious patriarchy, it's also the introduction of numerous secondary characters that creates a very full world that allows us to explore life from all different perspectives in New York City in the 1900s, which I found to be fascinating. For example, the paper said Fanny Levy had children, but we knew nothing about them. Her entire family and the 6 children, I created all those characters. That element of the narrative structure allows me to introduce children as significant supporting characters in the overall story, apart from what their mother is doing to lead this rebellious action. In fact, the children end up being so compelling, I've envisioned a spin-off show based on one of the female child characters. There's a teaser here. The next show takes place about 10 years later, and the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory plays a large part in the setting of that show. Now, I know a lot of you watching this know about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. Then there are her boycott followers. In my research, the newspapers reported the names of various women arrested, and honestly, there were a lot. I created a small ensemble cast of her boycott supporters, and they too play not only fun, but an essential role in the show. Characters like 54 years old Polish immigrant Louise Finkelstein, or 58 years old Russian immigrant Rosa Peskin, and others. Then there's a whole cadre of kosher butchers. Some are good guys and some are not such good guys. I'll share a few other insights from a dramatic point of view. First and foremost, it was a female-driven story. I like that fact a lot, and it's what really drew me in considerably to the story. The incident in question unfolded over barely 3 weeks, making it a sort of contained period. So from a storytelling point of view, it's always good to have a clear in point and a clear out point, and we had that here. Then, through the research, what emerged for me was the clear primary villains of the story and the conspirators, namely the cattle barons. It was them who conspired to raise the cost of kosher beef. After all, it was the increase in the cost of beef that was the triggering incident for the entire event. It's what set everything in motion and was the underlying theme of the show. Having landed on this secretive cabal of industrialists, I drew connections to the story's larger overarching theme and actual event. I've separately written a historical thesis-style paper with these historical discoveries that can be seen on the Boycott website. In dramaturg terms, Boycott is, at its core, an overcoming the monster or a David versus Goliath story. It's a fight against institutional as well as personal hubris and greed. It's a conspiracy story, and ultimately, it's a revenge and also a redemption story. The women win, even if the price increase is temporary. There are much larger institutional victories at play that we, as a society, still benefit from. All because Fanny and Sarah decided they had enough and they had the nerve to protest. I hope you enjoy the music. I hope you enjoy the message. I hope you enjoy the story. After the videos, we'll have a chance for some questions and answers. For now, enjoy the show.
Hello, I'm Avi Hopper. I am a stage and voice actor and singer, and I am extremely excited to have worked with Jeff Mustard, the writer, producer, and creator of the fascinating television series of musical stage play, Boycott. Your actions, though, make us seem misunderstood. Sarah Adelson, what are you ladies doing here?
Oi, Gewalt. It's so hot. I can't take it. Will the sewing never stop? Boycott beef.
Yeah,
Boycott beef.
do it like that.
We must boycott the kosher beef. Everyone, boycott kosher beef. Oi, Gewalt. No way. A price increase we cannot pay. Not tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Today. A kosher beef price increase? There is me. No way. Back to Russia. Back to Poland. No. 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 Bust the trust. Bust the trust. Bust the trust. Not tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Today. A kosher beef price increase. There is beer. No way. No way. No way. This kosher beef price increase simply cannot be.
Hit it.
Too much profit, too much greed.
Yeah.
How much money do you need?
it like
Too
that.
much profit, too much greed. How much profit do you need?
Yeah.
imagine, just imagine the pain, the dread, the pain, the dread. Imagine, just imagine the pain and the dread. Oh! Without, it's so hot, I can't take it. Will the sewing never stop? Boycott beef, boycott beef. We must boycott kosher beef.
In 1902, the women of New York City's Lower East Side band together, creating the first ever all-female-led boycott to protest a dramatic increase in the price of beef by the nation's most powerful business monopoly.
As the tagline of the musical stage play says, resistance never sounded so good. We hope you enjoy our work.
Today, a kosher beef price increase? Faze me! No way.
The real-life incidents of the 1902 kosher beef boycott, lasting barely more than 2 weeks, made national headlines, capturing the attention of President Theodore Roosevelt. The boycott's feverish rallies, public agitation, violent protests involving tens of thousands, property destruction, and mass arrests spread to cities throughout the country.
No way! No way! No way! This kosher beef price increase simply cannot be.
This co-female-led period thriller, supported by a mostly female ensemble cast, is set in motion when the Big Six, the nation's largest cattle barons, Swift and Armour among them, illegally conspired to increase the price of kosher beef. The price increase infuriates the Jewish community, threatening to prevent Jews from purchasing kosher meat, something they had grown easily accustomed to.
Imagine, just imagine the pain, the dread, the pain.
The cattle barons are met with a surge of unexpected resistance, triggering a chain of events in this rapidly unfolding David versus Goliath story, as two women, Fanny Levy, a mother of 6 children, and Sarah Edelson, the owner of a small kosher restaurant, forge an unlikely alliance that neither is equipped to undertake. Together, defying all odds, they confront the powerful beef industry with results no one could have imagined.
Profit, too much greed. How much money do you need? Too much profit, too much greed. How much profit do you need?
This prestige, family-friendly period thriller suited for network, cable, or streaming platforms brings to life in dramatic, historical fashion societal issues and challenges of the day.
Issues of immigration, racism, bigotry, discrimination, women's subservient role in the home and the workplace, labor issues, patriarchy, male dominance in the workplace, all themes at the forefront of contemporary American society.
How much profit do you need?
Levy, Sarah Edelson, 2 women no one knows.
Theodore Roosevelt is alerted to a beef boycott in New York City's Lower East Side. And Roosevelt has an opportunity based upon this protest and rallies that are started by Fanny Levy and Sarah Edelson to leverage that politically into injunctions that are served against the Big Six, which is an opportunity for Roosevelt to exact his revenge on the Big Six cattle barons, mainly because in 1898, during the Spanish-American War in Cuba, the military contracted with the meatpackers, and they served them embalmed and putrid and toxic beef, and thousands of Roosevelt's troops died. Now there's an opportunity for him to get revenge now that he's president, which in May 1902, so it's about 4 years later, and Roosevelt never really thought that he would find himself in a position to get revenge, and now there's an opportunity to do that. And so he's commissioning his Attorney General Flanders Knox to draft injunctions to do that very thing.
Beef price increase. To this, the women of the Lower East Side in New York City, they say no.
A beef price increase? Aha, this cannot be, unless Armour Swift, Cudahy, they must all agree.
Barons Beware is a song that represents a pivotal aspect of the boycott story. It's the moment when President Roosevelt learns of the kosher beef boycott unfolding in New York City's Lower East Side. He's made aware of the incident by his Attorney General Philander Knox. In this moment, for a theatrical stage version, this scene provides great historical insight, as well as the personal nature of the powerful and negative impacts the Big Six cattle barons had on the lives of not just Americans, but President Roosevelt, whose troops suffered from the consumption of toxic beef when they fought in the 1898 Spanish-American War.
The time has come for this story to be told. Let history records show Teddy Roosevelt would be bold.
The song has three components: a dialogue exchange between Knox and Roosevelt, where Roosevelt is alerted to the protests and rallies in New York City.
President Roosevelt, sir, I think you should see this now. Tomorrow may be too late.
Too late. I see. Well, if it's that important, tell me right away. What's it say?
Second part, the distinct movement of the song, transitions into a musical dialogue exchange between Knox and Roosevelt. This exchange illuminates the potential political benefits to Roosevelt for interceding and taking a public stand.
Aha! Now I think back to 1898. The cattle barons, Armour Swift, Morris, you made a mistake. It's time to get even, to settle the score. My troops you poisoned with embalmed beef in the Spanish-American War.
The third part is a Roosevelt solo. Knox exits and Roosevelt performs a hip-hop rap exposition, revealing the history and backstory of Roosevelt as Rough Rider. The song goes into the fascinating and important time in history where Roosevelt was the leader of the cavalry when he went to Cuba, and how his troops were poisoned by toxic beef supplied by the Big Six, which led to the death of many troops and the embalmed beef scandal that followed.
The cattle barons, the Big Six, they shall be no more. My men got sick, many needlessly died. Your hubris, your greed, because you had lied. My men got sick, many needlessly died. Your hubris, your greed, because you had lied.
Fanny, where are you going so early on this fine Saturday morning? To the market to get us something to eat?
No, Ezra. To meet Sarah and the women of Ward 10 on the street to continue to protest the price of kosher meat.
This highly rhythmic speak-sing duet between Fanny and her husband Ezra, it establishes the personal strife that has been lurking beneath the surface between husband and wife, owing to Fanny's involvement in the boycott.
Not so fast. Not today. Not on your life. Woman, you are my wife. You will do as I say.
The women should be seen and not heard philosophy prevails, remembering, of course, that this is 1900, and as the lyrics say, women should know their place. In the streets they shall not roam. Naturally, these are painful and frustrating circumstances and conditions in which to live.
Please step aside. Ridiculous. Absurd. Fanny, there's nothing you can do.
The message of the scene becomes clear, demonstrating the desperate, bottled-up frustrations coming to a head, revealing a never-before-experienced confrontation between Fanny and Ezra, as Fanny prepares to exit the apartment on this Shabbos morning.
A new dawn has begun. Through the streets the women run, their actions unbridled, no longer derided, their spirits set free. The only way you can get me to stay here, Ezra Levy, is to handcuff me!
Thematically, this song underscores the challenges Fanny, and by default and extension all of the women, face at this time. The religious and secular views on women to be homemakers, and the pressures for women to follow mores and sacred traditions that are dictated by the Jewish faith. Step-aside signals, for the first time, Fanny's ability to summon courage to defy her husband's wishes, his command even. You'll do as I say. You are my wife. You will not walk out that door. I forbid you to go.
I say no, Fanny Levy. No, what's more, the rabbis, they agree with me.
And yet, Fanny does walk out the door. Fanny chooses to pursue something that her husband and the Jewish community at large, mainly the Orthodox men, felt was wrong, inappropriate, and not suitable for a Jewish woman. As Ezra says, "You are a disgrace to the Jewish faith." And to drive the point home, painfully he says, "You have brought shame to our family name."
Ezra, I refuse to heed these protests and rallies. In case you hadn't noticed, I lead.
Things are about to change. Fanny's defiance against her husband is a signaling moment. The boycott represented for the first time a release valve for women to both bond and express themselves as never before.
I hope this is not beyond repair.
Well, we'll just have to see. It's all I can say. It's incredible to me that you could feel this way, all because I'm making my own way.
The burdens of labor and loneliness bear heavily on the women in the country. Their welfare should be the especial concern of all of us. Everything possible should be done to make life in the country profitable, so as to be attractive from the economic standpoint.
Hello, ladies of Ward 10. Are we ready to show the men where the true power resides? On the Lower East Side, let's do this.
Boycott beef, bust the trust, no more monopoly. Boycott beef, bust the trust, no more monopoly.
Set New York City's Lower East Side circa 1900, this co-female-led period thriller supported by a mostly female ensemble cast is set in motion when the Big Six, the nation's largest cattle barons, Swift and Armour among them, illegally conspired to increase the price of kosher beef, threatening to prevent Jews from purchasing kosher meat, something they had grown easily accustomed to.
All the Hebrews must know, just how we feel about our kosher meal. To the temple we go. All the Hebrews must know, just how we feel about our kosher meal. Our culture, it binds us. Millennia reminds us. Dictators and tyrants just prevailed over violence.
Today, women no longer in silence. This number, Fanny's Fury, represents the pivotal moment of Fanny's personal growth and her character's transformational arc. The same emotional impact and enlightenment will be true for her close boycott colleagues by the end of this song.
No, boycott will show how far we'll go to strike the cattle barons a blow. Fanny realizes that her actions are not just about fighting the cattle barons, but now that struggle is a metaphor for her freedom and that of all women. It is this number that highlights and crystallizes this epiphany.
You mean he doesn't see the power of our female might? And if you can believe it, whether it's even right.
Same here. Me too.
My husband said you're out of your head.
Oh my God, exactly. On the way out the door, he was angry and sore. He almost swore.
The women until now have been engaged on a physical and emotional level in the battle to challenge the cattle barons' imposition, the price increase in the cost of kosher beef. The immediate prior number, Step Aside, that takes place in the Levy apartment has commenced the female co-lead Fanny's metaphoric growth arc.
Go ahead.
Okay, here goes. Be warned, it was nervy. I felt scurvy, but mostly it disturbed me.
Go ahead, tell us, Fanny. We can take it. Fanny's Fury is no longer just a rally against the cost of kosher beef. It is a rallying cry against oppression and depression. It's not just a song about too much money, too much greed, exacted by the cattle barons on the poor, the meek, the immigrants in the street. It's about being treated fairly, equality, and an opportunity to live free.
My God! That's terrible! That's horrible! He made you sad, and yet you still walked out the door? Incredible! Unbelievable! He must have fell to the floor!
Wait, hold on, there's more.
It's about women coming to terms with the historical pressures of blindly following traditions of the ages and following sages. As Fanny says in a spirited, enlightened moment, We're in America now. We're turning new pages. Fanny, leading the group, will march through the streets of the Lower East Side, going to the Eldridge Street Synagogue.
You threaten, you moan, you think we're afraid, you'll disown, try living on your own.
You threaten, you moan, you think we're afraid, you'll disown. Try living on your own. You threaten, you moan, you think we're afraid, you'll disown. Try living on your own.
Our aim is to control business, not to strangle it. And above all, not to continue a policy of make-believe strangles toward big concerns that do evil, and constant menace toward both big and little concerns that do well.
So what's the upshot from all of this discovery? Recovery of facts we thought we'd never see. It paints a different picture of U.S. history, and it's pretty compelling.
We think you'd agree.
In this fun, light, hip-hop, rap rhyme manner, the audience discovers how the nation's cattle barons conspired to increase the cost of kosher beef by 50%, thrusting the majority of Eastern European immigrants that reside in New York City, Lower East Side, into never-before-experienced chaos. The women of Ward 10 won't stand for it. They band together for the first time to protest, rally, and boycott against a powerful monopoly.
Fanny and Sarah gotta win, especially when the women of the Lower East Side joined in. And then there was
President Roosevelt.
When he learned of the cattle baron's greed, it planted the seed. Their horrible past deeds of poisoning his troops with the embalmed beef during the Spanish-American War. As Roosevelt said when he learned of this action, this was his immediate reaction.
It's a highlights recap of the fantastic historical insights relative to the critical incidents of the 1902 kosher beef boycott. It takes the audience on a musical journey of the show's time and place, offering stunning historical insights into the motivations of President Roosevelt's key backstory prior to his ascendancy as the nation's commander-in-chief, when barely 4 years earlier he volunteered as a Rough Rider to lead the nation's cavalry aiding Cuba in its fight for independence in the 1898 Spanish-American War.
Theodore Roosevelt, oh dear Teddy, you're the friend of the working man. Theodore Roosevelt, oh dear Teddy, you're the friend of the working man.
The 6 musical compositions hopefully serve as a joyful musical gateway, introducing the audience to a thrilling universe of rhythm and rhyme, contrasting with the time and place in the 1900s with the ultra-contemporary music beats.
The laws evolved, so many problems solved. What came next? Creation of the Food and Drug Administration. Its sole intent, protect our flourishing nation from consuming meat that was an abomination.
More in Store is a finale wrap-up song. It revisits some of these critical moments highlighted in the earlier compositions, shedding light not only on the never-before-revealed historical discoveries, but at the same time, delivering an exciting and fantastic historical entertainment musical experience that not only signifies that the show is a work in progress, but that there is more to come. It was 1902. America kinda sorta knew, going through growing pains of the industrial age.
The country's still forming, new world opportunities, immigrants still exploring.
There's so much more of this story in store. We hope we leave you craving for more.
Now it's time to conclude this this fascinating unknown history in time.
A TV series, a Broadway play, maybe even a feature movie someday. We're at the end. We thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Not just for us, but for Fanny and Sarah.
And this opportunity to all get together. The next round of our show, you'll come to know
on Facebook and Twitter.
So plan on getting a sitter.
Our boycott show has room to grow, and when we're ready,
we'll let you know. Thank you for coming, all our dear friends. We look forward to seeing you all again. The end.